Hi, thanks for joining my show. I am distracted, and I'm distracted for numerous reasons and have been distracted for a long time now. And the difficult part of distraction is, first of all, you have to be aware to realize that you're distracted. And second of all, to come out of that distraction. And let me tell you something, that's a big challenge for me. And I'm sure that's a challenge for a lot of people as well. And distraction is one of the biggest hindrance, resistance towards progressing in every anything. I've been pondering about some of the strategies I can use in my life to be less distracted. And to be honest, it's very painful to find strategies which actually works because every night I kind of write it down in my journal. Okay, tomorrow I'm going to do this so that I don't get distracted and I'm staying focused on what I need to be done, what I need to do. And the very next day, things are very different. I'm falling back into the same old patterns. I'm addicted to a lot of things. I'm addicted to internet and social media at large, and games and watching TV shows and movies and a few other things which I can't say or don't want to go into. But those addictions are just distraction because I realize, like, whenever I am, say, writing my journal, if for a brief moment I don't know what I'll be writing down, or if I lost my train of thought, I immediately go back to my phone and get distracted, start scrolling through the infinite pages of social media or news or whatever pops up the first thing on the phone. And before I realize it, I've wasted 20 minutes, sometime even 40, 60 minutes. And that overall delay my other rituals. And, that's one of the reasons why I am ending up meditating late at night. So it's very, very painful for me to find a good strategy so that I'm not distracted. Some of the people I follow, at least few of them, mention to turn off the smartphone after, say, 8 p.m. So you're not distracted anymore, and you can either use the time after 8 p.m. to, do your rituals or go to bed early. And although in principle it sounds great, in implementation it's really tough. Really, really tough. And I'm still trying to figure out the best strategy for me. And I bet at some point I'm going to do this. I will start taking breaks from smartphones and other devices. I just have to find a way to implement it without putting a lot of effort. Uh, and at the same time, I'm also going through this different crisis in my life. So some of the times these distractions are happy distractions. So I kind of like end up watching some of the TED Talks or a lot of TED Talks, and I just talk myself out of taking a break from all the devices altogether. That being said, I do have experience minimizing the distraction altogether. A couple of years back, I went to a 10-day meditation retreat. And during those 10 days, I was not only using any device because, we all the participants or all the people there kept their phones or into the locker or somewhere so that we don't get distracted while we are meditating every single day. But on top of that, I didn't read any book. I didn't write any journal. And to make it even a bit more interesting, I guess, they have a policy speaking during that 10-day retreat. So basically, for 10 days, I didn't talk with anybody. I wasn't distracted by my smartphone. I wasn't absorbed by any book. I wasn't expressing my thoughts using journal. So by the end of day 3, I believe I was having this experience. I was, especially with the clarity of thoughts I was going through at that time, I was able to translate as well as transit from one thought to other thought like very seamlessly. I was starting my sentence in my head. I was starting my sentence in English and just sentence switching over to Hindi and just thinking in Hindi and then switching back and forth. And I could see the seamless transition between those two languages. And on top of that, I was able to recollect some of the words from English as well as from Hindi, which I haven't used in years. So there was definitely more activation, I guess, within my brain, and I was able to think clearly. I was able to express clearly, at least in my head. And one of the other things which I did during that time was to walk on a trail, but with a twist. So we had this mini trail at the retreat center, and people are free to walk on that trail during break time so that we can stretch ourselves and whatnot. So for the first couple days, I just had a normal walk. But on day 3 or day 4, I blindfolded myself and I was walking on that trail. And it was very interesting. For first few times or few days, I was having really hard time to walk on the right path on the trail, as well as not bump into anybody else. But within few attempts, I felt that I was able to walk seamlessly, very easily on that trail. And the way I was doing that was I was, in some sense, seeing through my feet. I was able to figure it out if I'm walking on trail or if I went, off trail. And obviously I can hear when I'm walking on leaves, and I can, get back on trail. And also when I hear somebody else walking around, I just stood there instead of bumping into each other, because we all were not supposed to talk. So overall, I felt that brains have this capability and capacity to learn new concepts, learn new skill set, just by sheer focusing on that. Having any distraction in those 10 days helped me a lot to get deeper into my meditation practice, as well as learn walking on trail blindfolded. But once I came back into the real world, things got back to normal. I mean, it's very painful to get rid of some of the distractions, because all the distractions are pleasureful. Whether you indulge into food or drugs or social media or anything else, all distractions are pleasurable. And once we get used to that pleasure, it's very hard to kind of back out of it. And that's something which I'm kind of battling at this point. And I'm trying to figure out like what are some of the other strategies successful people use. Definitely one of the things I could do is force myself by executing more self-control. And I'm sure I would be able to do it a few times, but after that, my willpower might be exhausted that I may not have any self-control anymore and I might give in. So it may be a good short-term strategy. One of the best strategy would be obviously to prepare beforehand, and let's just say if I know that I'll be distracted by phone, then put my phone away or block all the notifications, or have some sort of application on the phone which automatically log down my screen time, something on of that matter. But the other thing is I'm also addicted to watching TV shows and movies, so who's gonna force me to log out of that? So it's a very it's a constant battle within, and plenty of times I win this battle. I ask myself a very simple question, which is, am I doing the right thing at this moment? And the best part of that question is my inner self, my intuitive self, have a response to that. So we all have this internal compass which will respond back when you ask a very simple question, such as, am I doing the right thing in this moment? And if the answer is no, then you know that you have to get off whatever you're doing and do whatever the right thing might be for you. And if the answer is sure, then you can continue on that. So I'm trying to get used to that system. But again, I am easy to fool because especially when I pull my triggers, because I know what buttons to push to act in a specific way. So I know how to talk myself out of doing the right thing. Whether it's like working out, I can just talk myself out and indulge into something else. So it's very difficult to kind of, I guess, win when you're fighting with yourself. And I don't know. I'm still trying to figure that out. And hopefully it will get better. I have this belief and faith that the more I practices such as meditation, such as working out or indulging into healthy stress, my mind will be trained to adapt to the long-term benefits instead of looking for the instant gratification. And that's the key to all of this, I guess, because distraction is just a way to get instant gratification. And once you train your mind to delay that gratification for a greater pleasure, then it will help you to kind of, overcome any distraction. That kind of reminds me, there was a few decades back where a group of scientists, they called in bunch of kids in a room. And I believe they had one kid at a time in the experiment room. And the experiment was very simple. They had like some sort of chocolate in front of them. And the instruction was, if they want to have that chocolate, they can. But if they wait for 15 minutes, then they're going to have, say, 2 or 3 chocolates. And then they immediately left the room. And obviously, they had different office from there. They were watching the reaction of the kid all together. And obviously, kids being kids, a few kids, they, hopped onto the chocolate and ate almost immediately. A few kids, they waited for a period of time, but they couldn't handle the pressure, and eventually, within 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or whatever, they gave in and they ate the chocolate. And there were very few kids who held off for the entire 15 minutes to get a bigger reward of, say, 2 or 3 chocolates. And the scientists, they obviously made a note of all of this, data, and then they tracked the lives of those kids. And they observed that the kids who were able to hold on to instant gratification, they have done significantly better in their lives. They have more satisfactorily living life. I don't know what variables they were using to calculate the satisfaction, but I bet, most of the kids who held on to being patient and not eating those chocolate immediately, they end up being at a leadership or powerful positions altogether. So the point is that the training of our mind to not indulge into instant gratification and instead wait for the delayed gratification has a lot of value down the road. It may feel sort of painful to manage right now, but a year from now, 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now, it is exponentially more valuable than right now. And even though I know this, I still indulge into instant gratification at times. I'm getting better at it for sure. And there are different things, a few things which I'm addicted to. It could be food or, like I said, TV shows. I kind of just go out for that instant gratification after a while. But there are things which I'm completely detached from. Even if I'm, in a way, seek that or like that, I can hold on to that for an extended period of time. So I just have to work on the addiction part, I guess. And one of the things which helps is to labeling the addiction as addiction. I know a lot of people call stress eating as not addiction because it's just food. But I like to call it what it is, an addiction, because just labeling it right is the step one, like all the AAA programs, right? In Alcoholic Anonymous program, they first ask people to acknowledge that they have an addiction problem. And to be honest, we all have addiction problems. It's just varies from degree to degree and from substance to substance. I'm fortunate to understand early in my life that there are some substances which I never want to indulge into, such as cigarette, because I've seen far so many people in my social life who are addicted to cigarette. And I trained myself to not even like, trying it out, because, trying could be the step one. So I got better into managing the most addictive substances. Uh, but at the same time, I have my own vices like food and a few other things. So uh, gotta figure out a good strategy to kind of focus on what I need to be doing. And to make everything even tougher, this coronavirus crisis has has intensified the cravings in a way, because pre-coronavirus crisis, I was going out every single day. So there was little time to watch TV shows and movies and whatnot. So I had my daily routine. I was doing all of that. And uh, there's a momentum when you do one thing and then move on to other and move on to other. And uh, by the time I come back home, I'm so fulfilled. I, do did some of my rituals, go to bed, and do the same thing next day again and again. And it was very, very gratifying. But now, because of this coronavirus crisis, I'm confined within my apartment, and plenty of times it's okay, because I have good support system. I talk with my friends and family and whatnot, but a lot of times it's painful. It's like it's like you're trapped in this four walls, and your mind is going bonkers thinking about possible scenarios. Like, for an example, I don't have a job anymore, and my mind kind of is worried about all that career BS. And to add on to that, I have immigration issues because of my job situation. So, there are different stresses related to that. And on top of that, I have to manage my finances. So, there is different stresses around that. So, there are so many different stresses that I feel automatically attracted towards these, instant gratification, so that I can, in some sense, run away from all of those stresses. Even though I'm not running away from any of those, but it's a what seems to be a good distraction from all the other stresses and pressures turn up into an addiction. And I don't want that in my life. I want to be aware of this moment as much as I can. And I want to live through that pain, through that experience, through that, uh, I guess, hustle in a lot of sense. This would make me stronger, for sure. And that's true for. So when you experience that crisis head on, you will be much stronger than if you ignore it and run away from it. So, yeah, uh, that being said, I'm gonna start my daily meditation session now. And like always, I will be meditating using Vipassana and few other techniques. And you get a pleasure to watch me sit in front of you and, just meditate, or at times even doze off. All right, so I'm gonna set an alarm and get on to it. So before that, I need to to turn on the noises in the room. Wow, it's 12, exactly 12. Yeah, I gotta get back into my daily routine where I should be meditating at 5 p.m. at most. Um, yeah, it might take a while to go back to that. But, but. All right. Anyways, I have already set my alarm, so I will see you in an hour. Hey, thanks for staying with me for this entire meditation session. Today was sort of difficult, it was distractive, and yeah, I feel that this late night meditation is not a good idea. So that's a note to self to switch back to either early morning meditation or like somewhere around afternoon, because that seems to be more fruitful, where I can focus my energy, and then I'm not pushing this meditation towards the end of the day, which is really exhausting. Well, with that note, I'll talk to you soon.